Yeah, I mean, the communication within the whole health service really on the island, more primarily Nobles Hospital, is, for want of a better word, terrible. There's a lot of crossover, there's a lot of double bookings, there's a lot of information that isn't being relayed to the consultant, doctor, surgeon, that they should have, that they need for the necessary procedure that they're about to do on the day. That's resulting in appointments being basically nil void, like they can't do the procedure on the day, so they're having to send the patient home again and rebook. Of course, that's taxpayers' money. They could have got another patient in there, had a successful procedure done. So, all these things are contributing to, of course, the waiting lists and the trouble within the hospital.
Is this view that you have sort of built on experiences as a patient, or is this anecdotally from what you heard from other people?
Both. So I can give you my personal experience. So I was booked in fairly recently for a endoscopy, and it was booked as an urgent. I mean, literally, I wasn't able to eat. I wasn't able to swallow food. So I received my letter, went up on the day, waited in the endoscopy suite for several hours, was brought through into the theatre, literally on the theatre bed, surrounded by nurses and machines, nervous and expecting the procedure, because you get yourself obviously, nil by mouth, so physically prepared, and then mentally prepared as well, because it's a scary thing. The surgeon picked up the paperwork and said, "Oh, we can't do this today." And I was like, "Why?" I've just realised that what you're down for, and we haven't got the right equipment, so you'll have to go home. So I was sent home. A week later, brought me back in, same again, into theatre, prepped and all the rest of it. Same thing, can't do this today. And I was like, "Why not?" He said, "You've not stopped taking your medication." And I said, "Well, I wasn't informed to. I was told to keep taking my medication." He said, "Oh, did you not receive one of these information packs?" And I looked at it and went, "I've never seen that in my life." And he said, "Oh, the damn admin team haven't sent it out to you, so now we can't do it till after Christmas." At which point I just completely lost the plot, marched down to the manager's office and said, "This is unacceptable."
What was the response when you took this to management?
To be honest with you, they didn't seem to know what to do. I really wonder how these managers get their jobs. It was like she'd never dealt with a patient before. That's the experience that I got from her. And I went in, I gave her all the information, said it's unacceptable. It's you're putting patients at risk here. And as far as I'm concerned, if anything happens to me or any other patient as a result of something like this happening, you are completely liable. So because of that, I also wrote to the minister. I'm sure the minister, David Ashford, is sick of hearing from me. But yeah, it does make you feel like a serial complainer. But actually, everything I'm saying is justified.
So has there been dialogue with the minister? Are you getting responses? Is that a two-way conversation?
Yeah. I must admit, David Ashford, he's very, very good at getting back to you. I'm sure there are times when he doesn't get back to certain people. Maybe he doesn't, he's a very busy man. But he's always been very good at getting back to me. That's one thing I will say.
What sort of impact? I mean, obviously, in your case, you probably know the answer. Maybe it's harder to speculate for other people. But what sort of impacts do these things have? I guess you could describe it as a breakdown in communication, maybe.
Well, I mean, the minister was talking. I briefly heard he was talking about silos. And this is like a nice flash word that they keep using. It's very nice to use, but there's no change. Nothing's ever done about it. Centralised government's another one they keep talking about.
Because I think silos is used as a point of criticism across government. This isn't sort of specific to the health department necessarily, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you think it's true within health specifically as well?
Yes. I'll give you another example. I spoke to a nurse who had recently moved here, and she couldn't understand how much we relied on paper, still paper records. So before another doctor can access your records on the system, it has to be filled out, by the nurse or the doctor. That then has to be sent down to medical records. That has to wait until it's scanned onto the system before it can be accessed. That all takes time, and in the NHS, time is money,
These are things that you've raised with the health minister before, and through other channels, presumably within the health department. Have there been any reassurances given to you?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't raised that specific one, because I've got to the stage where all the problems that have built up within the health service, I'd be emailing him every day. I would love to sit down in a room with hospital management, the minister, the department members, and just talk about everything, all the problems that I've spotted, that I've witnessed, that I've had as a patient myself, and also that I've also been in a capacity where I've had to act as a carer with other people, vulnerable adults and what have you. So I've attended hospital many times as a responsible adult with patients and had to get them seen to. And more recently, and she's given me permission to say this, there was a lady that requested me to take her up, and they shoved her in a side room for 3-4 hours, just left there, not checked on her or anything. When the doctor eventually came in, I said, listen, this lady is severely dehydrated, and that's why she had the fall, that's why she's here. This was told to you when we arrived at A&E. Why has she not got an IV drip in her? Why has she not got a saline drip in her? And he just sort of said, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. We can do that. And I thought, why am I having to... I'm not a doctor. Why am I having to tell you this?
Do you think there are parallels in those experiences? Is communication perhaps or breakdown in communication a theme, do you think, perhaps? Or is that too tenuous?
For instance, A&E. There's two things with A&E. We could do with some more staff within A&E, I think, personally. We don't have enough staff. Another couple of nurses would be great. On top of that, the overall system they have in place could be greatly improved. Now, again, a doctor has actually asked me to say this. Doctors are trained in England and Scotland. The way doctors are trained is that patients come into A&E department, they are triaged, and that triage nurse takes down the basics of what their problem is. They then put the patient back in the waiting room, they go through to the doctor and they say, right, this patient has a fever, a rash, etc., etc., and the doctor will look at the notes and very quickly say, okay, order these bloods, this scan, this ECG, etc., and then he'll crack on seeing to other patients. So then that patient will be brought into a side room, have all the relevant tests, put back into the waiting room. So when she sees the doctor, which could be an hour or two, that's fine, but he's already got the results by that point, so he can diagnose and treat straight away. He doesn't need to say, okay, now we'll run some bloods, and now we'll run some tests, and we'll keep you in that bed for 4 hours until the results come. Things are done the wrong way around on the Isle of Man, and it's the only place that happens as far as I'm aware.
You've spoken a bit about the sort of view from the patient's side, and I know that the health department has just announced a projected overspend again this year, so and lots of that I think is down to Nobles Hospitals. I imagine staffing probably isn't set to change drastically in the immediate future, but how about from the staff's point of view? Do you feel staff have confidence in the system they're working under?
No, actually that's something that's quite upsetting for me. My mother worked in Nobles for over 20 years. My grandmother worked there for 60 years. She was actually the oldest working nurse in the UK before she died. So I was very much brought up in Nobles Hospital. I was the kid who was put in the staff room in the old Nobles Hospital when my mum was busy working, and I was brought up to Newlands at Christmas and helped the patients, make them tea and coffee and things.
Was there a different culture, perhaps, then, do you think?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Staff at the moment are not feeling valued at all by management. I don't think they feel like they can talk to management and that their views will be heard and necessarily implemented if they are deemed feasible. And then, of course, there's been changes across government with the changes in contracts, changes in pensions. And I've spoke to so many doctors and nurses that are just like, do you know what? I'm getting out of here. I'm retiring. It's not worth it. So, you got to think about the effect it has on their lives as well. I mean, yes, that's their job, but it's going to get to a point with in any job where the stress becomes too much. And actually, that leads me to another example, if you like.
What other experiences, yours or from other people, are you able to draw upon?
So this goes back about 2 years ago now. I went to A&E, and yeah, it was quite busy, and you could see that there wasn't enough staff around. The nurse brought me into the triage room, and she was very flustered and very stressed, and she started having a panic attack at her desk and hyperventilating. And I actually had to say, listen, it's okay, just slow down, take it easy, take a breath. Me being the patient, of course. And she went, no, I can't. I've got so many patients out there to see, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that. And I went, forget about it, just sit there, 30 seconds, breathe, And she was going, I'm so sorry. And she started getting teary. And she said, no. I said, it's not your fault. No one's blaming you. I said, it's the government. It's the people who should be supporting you, but they're not.